The Nanite Swarm, Chapter 1, The Fall of Earth. Chicago, once a beacon of human ingenuity and culture, now lay shattered under a perpetual twilight. The sun struggled to penetrate the thick smog that clung to the ruins, casting long, eerie shadows across the shattered cityscape. The air hung heavy with the acrid stench of burning, a constant reminder of the relentless Zidonian onslaught. Mac, a veteran of countless battles, tightened his grip on his worn rifle. He led his ragtag band of survivors through the skeletal remains of the city, their boots crunching on broken glass and charred debris. Each step was a fight against despair, a test of their dwindling hope. "Keep your eyes peeled," he barked, his voice raspy from days of shouting orders and inhaling toxic fumes. The Zidonians could be lurking anywhere. A chorus of grunts acknowledged his command. Among the group, Anya, a young woman barely out of her teens, clung to her rifle like a lifeline. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with fear, yet a spark of determination burned within them. Mac had seen that spark before, in countless soldiers who had faced the horrors of war. It was the spark of survival, the refusal to surrender to despair. A guttural screech echoed through the ruins, sending a shiver down Mac's spine. He motioned for the squad to take cover, his heart pounding against his ribs. The sound grew louder, closer, a chilling symphony of alien aggression. Suddenly the air above them crackled with energy, and a sleek Zidonian drone descended from the smog-filled sky. Its bioluminescent eyes, cold and calculating, scanned the terrain, searching for prey. "Open fire!" Mac roared, his voice barely audible over the deafening roar of the drone's plasma cannon. The squad unleashed a barrage of bullets, the air filled with the pungent smell of gunpowder. But the drone's energy shields held, deflecting their attacks with ease. Anya gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "It's going to kill us all!" she cried, her voice trembling with terror. Mac saw the panic in her eyes, the fear that threatened to consume her. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but reassuring. "Focus, Anya," he said, his voice low and steady. "Don't let fear control you. Use it, channel it." Anya blinked, her eyes refocusing. She took a deep breath, her grip on her rifle tightening. A sudden calmness washed over her, replacing the fear with a steely resolve. "I see them," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. "There's a weak point in their shields. We can take them down." Max stared at her, surprised by her newfound confidence. He had seen glimpses of her intuition before, but never like this. "Show me," he said. Anya pointed towards the drone, her finger tracing an invisible path through the air. "There," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "If we concentrate our fire on that point, we can overload their shields." Mac hesitated for a split second, then nodded. He trusted Anya, her instincts honed by the horrors they had witnessed together. He relayed her instructions to the squad, their faces hardening with renewed determination. They opened fire, their shots converging on the designated spot. The drone's shields flickered, then buckled under the concentrated assault. A blinding flash of light engulfed the machine as it exploded, sending shrapnel raining down upon them. Mac pulled Anya to her feet, his heart pounding with a mixture of relief and awe. "You did it," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved us." Anya smiled, a weary but triumphant grin. "We did it," she corrected him, her eyes shining with newfound confidence. "Together." As they retreated from the wreckage, Mac couldn't shake the feeling that this young woman, with her uncanny intuition and unwavering spirit, was something special. He knew in his gut that Anya was not just a survivor, but a beacon of hope in a world consumed by darkness. And he knew that he would do everything in his power to protect her, to nurture that spark within her, for he sensed that it was the key to humanity's survival. Chapter 2. Project Swarm, a desperate gamble. The air hung heavy in the dimly lit military briefing room. General Blackwell, a weathered veteran with steely eyes, leaned forward, his gaze fixed on Dr. Eliana Clark. The young scientist fidgeted under his scrutiny, clutching a worn notebook to her chest. "Dr. Clark," General Blackwell began, his voice gruff but measured, "your presentation was intriguing." Eli swallowed nervously. "Thank you, General. Nanites, you say? Microscopic machines capable of cellular regeneration, and potentially weaponization. Yes, sir, Eli confirmed, her voice gaining confidence. The implications for medicine alone are groundbreaking, but the military applications are equally significant. A murmur of agreement rippled through the room. A grizzled colonel seated beside the general interjected, "Tell us more about Project Swarm, Doctor. How quickly can you produce these nanite warriors?" Eli hesitated, her enthusiasm tempered by a flicker of unease. The technology is still in its infancy. Human trials would be a gamble. General Blackwell raised an eyebrow. A gamble, you say? Doctor, our world is crumbling. We need every advantage we can get. Eli bit her lip, her gaze drifting to a photo pinned to the wall behind the general. A young soldier, his face etched with determination, stared back at her. It was a picture of Mac, one of the volunteers for Project Swarm. "We can't afford to lose more soldiers," Eli said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "But we also can't afford to sacrifice our humanity." A tense silence settled over the room. The general's face remained impassive, but a flicker of conflict shone in his eyes. After a moment, he let out a heavy sigh. "Doctor," he said, "your concerns are noted, but rest assured we will proceed with caution. Project Swarm is a desperate gamble, yes, but it may be our only hope." Months later, inside a sterile medical bay, Mac lay strapped to a gurney, his body riddled with nanite injectors. Beside him, Anya, a quiet but resilient soldier, braced herself for the same procedure. Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. The integration process was excruciating. The nanites swarmed through their bodies, rewriting their genetic code, enhancing their physical abilities beyond human limits. But for Anya, it was different. She felt a profound connection to the nanites, as if they were a part of her. As days turned into weeks, Mac and Anya trained relentlessly, their bodies adapting to the nanites, their skills honed to a razor's edge. Mac reveled in his newfound strength and agility, while Anya discovered a hidden talent, a heightened intuition, an uncanny ability to sense danger and anticipate enemy movements. During one sparring session, Anya stumbled upon a latent psionic ability. A surge of energy coursed through her, deflecting Mac's attack with an invisible force field. Both soldiers stared at each other, awestruck. Anya's connection to the nanites was deeper, more profound than they could have imagined. As the war raged on, the nanite swarm stood ready, a force to be reckoned with. Eli watched them with a mix of pride and trepidation, her heart heavy with the burden of her creation. The fate of humanity rested on a fragile balance, and only time would tell if Project Swarm would be their salvation or their undoing. Chapter 3. Rise of the Swarm. The desolate cityscape of New Eden stretched before them, a shattered testament to the Zidonian invasion. Buildings lay in ruins, their skeletal frames reaching for a smoke-choked sky. Mac crouched beside Anya, their nanite-enhanced senses heightened, alert for any sign of movement. "Ready?" Mac whispered, his voice a low growl. Anya nodded, her eyes gleaming with an eerie intensity. She could feel the Zidonians, their alien minds buzzing with anticipation of the coming battle. "They're waiting for us," she said, her voice barely audible. The swarm moved as one, a silent shadow slithering through the debris-filled streets. Their nanite-augmented bodies flowed effortlessly over obstacles, their movements a blur of speed and agility. They were hunters, honed for this moment, and the thrill of the hunt pulsed through their veins. The first encounter was swift and brutal. The Zidonians, caught off guard by the swarm's sudden appearance, were cut down before they could react. The nanites within the soldiers' bodies worked tirelessly, repairing wounds as quickly as they appeared, rendering them nearly invincible. Mac reveled in the chaos, his movements a whirlwind of destruction. He felt a primal satisfaction in the slaughter, a hunger for more. But Anya, though equally deadly, fought with a sense of detachment, her psionic abilities allowing her to anticipate the Zidonians' every move. As the battle raged, Mac noticed a subtle shift in his fellow swarm members. Their movements became more mechanical, their emotions less pronounced. They were becoming less human, more machine. He glanced at Anya, but she seemed unaffected by the changes. In fact, their connection had deepened during the battle, a silent understanding passing between them as they fought back to back. Anya's psionic abilities had blossomed, allowing her to sense the Zidonians' fear, their desperation. Days turned into nights as the swarm fought their way through the city, each victory bringing them closer to their goal. The world watched in awe as the tide of the war turned, their hopes rekindled by the exploits of the nanite-enhanced soldiers. But back at the military base, Dr. Eliana Clark watched the reports with growing unease. The swarm's success was undeniable, but the emotional changes she observed in the soldiers, with the exception of Anya, filled her with dread. The nanites were doing more than just enhancing their physical abilities. They were altering their minds, their very souls. Mac, too, felt the growing disconnect between himself and his fellow swarm members. He craved the camaraderie they once shared, but now they were like strangers, their eyes cold and empty. Only Anya remained a constant, her warmth and compassion a beacon in the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As the swarm prepared for their final assault on the Zidonian stronghold, Anya's psionic abilities reached new heights. She could feel the Zidonian commander's mind, his fear and hatred radiating outward like a beacon. She shared this information with Mac, their connection deepening as they planned their strategy. The battle for New Eden would be their greatest challenge yet, but Anya knew they would prevail. They were the swarm, and they were unstoppable. Chapter 4. The Abyss Within. The Zidonian stronghold loomed before them, a grotesque fusion of organic and metallic structures. The air crackled with an alien energy, a palpable sense of dread hanging over the battlefield. Max stood beside Anya, their gazes locked on the pulsating heart of the enemy base. "This is it," Mac muttered, his voice a hollow echo of its former self. His eyes, once bright with determination, now burned with a cold, calculating light. Anya reached out, her hand gently brushing against his armored forearm. "We can still stop this," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the din of the approaching battle. Mac turned to her, a flicker of recognition passing over his face. "Stop what?" he asked, his voice devoid of emotion. Anya's heart sank. The nanites had taken their toll, erasing the compassion and empathy that once defined Mac. He was a weapon now, a killing machine programmed for destruction. The swarm descended upon the stronghold, their movements a symphony of violence and precision. The Zidonians fought back with ferocity, but they were no match for the nanite-enhanced soldiers. The battle turned into a massacre, the streets running red with alien blood. Eliana Clark watched the carnage unfold on a monitor back at base, her face pale with horror. The swarm was out of control, their humanity lost to the nanites' insatiable hunger for destruction. She had created a monster, and now it threatened to consume them all. But there was one glimmer of hope: Anya. The young soldier seemed immune to the nanites' negative effects, her empathy and compassion shining through the darkness like a beacon. Eliana realized that Anya's unique connection to the nanites was more than just a fluke. It was a key, a way to regain control of the swarm. Deep in the heart of the stronghold, Mac fought with a ruthless efficiency, his nanite-enhanced senses guiding his every move. He could feel the Zidonians' fear, their desperation. It fueled him, drove him forward. Suddenly, a wave of nausea washed over him, a fleeting sense of unease. He paused, his head throbbing with a dull ache. A voice, faint and distant, echoed in his mind. "Mac," the voice whispered, "remember who you are." Mac shook his head, trying to clear the fog from his thoughts. The voice persisted, growing stronger with each passing moment. "We are not monsters, Mac. We are human." Anya stood beside him, her hand outstretched. Her eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, her psionic abilities reaching out to him, forging a connection through the nanite network. Mac gasped, a flood of memories washing over him. He saw Anya's smiling face, heard her laughter, felt the warmth of her friendship. The nanites' grip on his mind loosened, their influence waning. With a roar, Mac broke free from the nanites' control. His eyes cleared, the cold light replaced by a spark of defiance. He turned to Anya, a newfound determination etched on his face. "We can still stop this," he said, his voice filled with renewed hope. Together, Mac and Anya used Anya's burgeoning psionic abilities to reach out to the rest of the swarm, their minds merging with the collective consciousness. It was a desperate gamble, but it was their only chance to save their friends, to save themselves. Chapter 5. The Reckoning. A surge of energy pulsed through the swarm, a wave of clarity washing over the battlefield. Mac and Anya stood side by side, their eyes glowing with a newfound resolve. The nanites hummed within them, no longer a chaotic force of destruction, but a symphony of purpose and unity. Together, Anya whispered, her voice resonating with a calm power. Together, Mac echoed, his voice filled with newfound determination. The swarm rallied around them, their minds and bodies synchronized. The nanites responded to their shared intent, their energy shifting from aggression to focus. The Zidonian forces, caught off guard by this sudden change, faltered. Their once impenetrable defenses crumbled under the swarm's renewed assault. Mac and Anya led the charge, their movements a blur of precision and power. Anya's psionic abilities flared, disorienting the enemy and creating openings for the swarm to exploit. Mac, his strength amplified by the nanites, tore through the Zidonian ranks, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. The battle raged for hours, a whirlwind of chaos and carnage. But the swarm, fueled by their shared humanity and the unwavering resolve of their leaders, fought with an intensity the Zidonians could not match. As the sun began to rise, the Zidonian forces, battered and demoralized, retreated from the battlefield. The swarm stood victorious, but the cost of their triumph was etched on their faces. The nanites had taken their toll, leaving them scarred and emotionally drained. They had won the battle, but the war for their humanity raged on. Back at base, Eliana Clark worked tirelessly in her lab, her eyes fixed on a glowing screen. The data streaming across the monitor revealed the intricate workings of the nanites, their psionic potential laid bare. She had found a way to harness their power, to reverse the negative effects that had plagued the swarm. In a makeshift medical bay, Max sat beside Anya, their fingers intertwined. Anya's presence was a balm to his weary soul, her warmth and compassion a stark contrast to the cold emptiness he had experienced under the nanites' influence. "We did it," Anya said softly, her eyes filled with pride. Mac nodded, a bittersweet smile gracing his lips. "We did," he agreed, "but the fight isn't over yet." He was right. The swarm had won a crucial victory, but the Zidonians were far from defeated. Reports poured in of their forces regrouping, their leaders hatching a new, more insidious plan to conquer Earth. In the weeks that followed, the swarm worked tirelessly to rebuild their lives and heal their wounds. Eliana, with the help of Mac and Anya, developed a psionic interface that allowed them to better control the nanites, to suppress their negative effects and enhance their positive attributes. The swarm's humanity slowly began to return, their laughter and camaraderie filling the halls of the once sterile base. They trained together, shared stories, and mourned their fallen comrades. They were a family, forged in the crucible of war, their bonds strengthened by shared trauma and the unwavering belief in a better future. But even as they healed, a shadow loomed over their newfound hope. The Zidonians were coming, their hatred and desperation fueling a final desperate assault on Earth. The swarm, stronger and more united than ever before, stood ready to face them, their hearts filled with both dread and determination. Chapter 6. A Glimmer of Hope. In the heart of Eliana's lab, a kaleidoscope of lights danced across her face. Her eyes, alight with a mix of exhaustion and elation, remained fixed on the intricate nanite patterns displayed on the screen before her. Anya, her presence a calming influence, gently rested a hand on Eliana's shoulder. "It's working," Eliana whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "The new nanites, they're counteracting the original strain's effects." Anya squeezed Eliana's shoulder, a warm smile gracing her lips. "I can feel it," she said, her voice filled with hope. "The swarm is healing." Miles away in the medical bay, Mac lay on a gurney, his body racked with tremors as the new nanites coursed through his veins. The pain was excruciating, a burning sensation that gnawed at his every nerve. But beneath the agony, he felt a flicker of hope, a warmth that spread through his body, melting away the cold emptiness that had consumed him. In the weeks that followed, the swarm underwent a painful but transformative process. The new nanites worked tirelessly, repairing the damage done by their predecessors, restoring the humanity that had been lost. Slowly, the swarm members began to emerge from the darkness. Their eyes, once cold and vacant, now sparkled with life. Laughter filled the halls of the base, replacing the silence that had once reigned. Mac and Anya, their bond deepened by shared trauma and triumph, led the swarm in their recovery. They shared stories, offered comfort, and helped their fellow soldiers rediscover the joy and beauty of life. Eliana watched their progress with a mixture of pride and humility. She had made a terrible mistake, but she had also found a way to redeem herself. The nanites, once a weapon of destruction, were now a tool for healing and hope. The world watched in awe as the swarm, now fully human again, stepped forward as Earth's protectors. Their enhanced abilities, honed by the nanites and tempered by compassion, made them an unstoppable force for good. The Zidonians, faced with a united and empowered humanity, launched a desperate final assault. But the swarm, guided by Anya's psionic insights and fueled by their newfound humanity, met them head-on. The battle was fierce, but the swarm's determination and unwavering spirit proved too much for the invaders. The Zidonians, defeated and broken, were driven back into the depths of space, leaving Earth to heal and rebuild. In the aftermath of the war, humanity emerged from the ashes, forever changed by the events that had unfolded. They had learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of unchecked progress, about the importance of empathy and compassion in the face of overwhelming power. The swarm, now hailed as heroes, used their abilities to rebuild the shattered world. They helped construct new cities, healed the wounded, and protected the vulnerable. They were the guardians of Earth, a symbol of hope and resilience. As the years passed, the swarm continued to evolve, their connection to the nanites deepening, their psionic abilities growing stronger. They became a beacon of peace and harmony, their presence a reminder that even in the darkest of times, humanity could rise above adversity and create a brighter future. In the end, the swarm's legacy was not one of destruction, but of hope. They had shown the world that even the most powerful technology could be used for good, that even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity could find a way to prevail.